How do you
Originator on this episode of Major Money Matters. All right, welcome back to another episode of Major Money Matters. And hey, brother, how's it going?
Hey, all is well.
Awesome stuff, man. Good to have you back on the channel. I wanted to bring you on because I get a lot of requests for interviews and really a request for conversations from loan officers asking me how I do certain things, what are my thoughts on certain things. And this is not a flex or anything. This is just, reality. And so I wanted to bring you on, and I've been doing this a little bit longer than you have. Some people would say I sucked you into this world, and you have not forgiven me since. And so I'm going to turn it over to you. And basically, you get to run this show today. You get to run the channel and, ask me basically anything you want. It's a conversation. This is an open dialogue.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to skip right past that. You suckered me into entering this industry. Hey, we're all grown-ups. We make grown-up decisions. And you sold a good bill of goods, so I'm not going to say it didn't look sweet, but we're here now, so we've got to make it right.
This is fun, man. We have a lot of fun. This is fun.
Oh, absolutely.
What else are you going to do? You're going to go, clock in at Keurig Dr. Pepper where you used to be and, talk about, how we're going to cut prices and production on something. Come on, man. Nobody wants to do that.
Well, it was a fulfilling profession while it lasted, but now we're here. So the questions, the questions that come from so many people who are in the industry who want to become top producers, like yourself, a little peek behind the veil, and just to run off some of your accolades, because it sounds weird when you run off your own accolades. You know what I mean? It's like you're tooting your own horn. It makes you sound conceited or maybe boisterous or braggadocious or any other thing that I can come up with to describe what you would sound like if you said these things yourself. So I'm just going to run them off and let the people do with them what they will. But you entered the field in September of 2020. So we're not quite at 5 years yet. But in that time, you've become National Mortgage Broker of the Year for 2025. You have personally mentor and have brought 50 plus loan originators into the broker channel. You were top 10 VA lender for 2022 and 2023. Number one mortgage loan originator in the state of Hawaii in 2022. You are a Hall of Fame Visionary Award winner, and you are still producing to this day. I mean, you haven't sat back to nurture a team. You haven't started an official coaching program, even though you mentor all of these loan originators. Okay, you are still very much so a producing loan originator, producing tens of loans every month yourself. Okay. So when people hear you answer the questions that I'm going to ask you today, they're going to know that it's coming from a tree that has fruit on it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, many times when I hear people talk, the first thing I do is, I check model match and I check Redder. Like, okay, should I even be listening to what you're saying? I mean, you sound good. I mean, you sound like you know what you're talking about, but do you actually close? Can you actually close loans? And sometimes, we find that people are talking a lot and they don't know how to close loans.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen people on stages and on platforms, and you go hit the model match, and you find out that that the scale is off. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to get into some questions, conversational, of course. Some of them that that I have planned. Some of them that I might not have planned to just probe a little bit deeper. But I would like to start off with, if you had to start over right now from scratch, okay, what is the first thing you would do in order to become a top producing loan originator?
Wow. If I'm starting over from scratch, I'm going to figure out how to add value to my client. Okay. So, first of all, as a loan officer, my client is not the buyer. Me. This is the perspective of how I view my business. My client is not the buyer. My client is the realtor, and my focus is on helping the realtor build their business. Helping the buyer is a byproduct of my service to the client or to the realtor. The buyer, it's like the buyer's going to come, the buyer's going to go. They're going to get into their home. The realtor is, and helping the realtor build their business. That's where I really want to focus. So I'm going to figure out, how do I add value to the realtors that are in my area, and what do they need in order to grow? Because if I'm building a business in New York City, might be different than building a business in Texas. So if I'm a realtor in Kansas, it might be different than being a realtor in DFW or Dallas Fort Worth. What types of homes are they selling? What type of market are they operating in? What do I have that's going to actually contribute to what they actually need, and how do I help enhance their business? Because that is the true client. The realtor is the client, and that's the way I recommend people. And granted, the loan business or the mortgage business is so awesome because you can make money and be successful in so many different ways. You can really do a bunch of refinances and be successful at that, and generate income that way. You can be predominantly a purchase loan officer, which we are. You can be a divorce loan officer. Just you focus on helping people go through divorces and everything, which I imagine would be kind of depressing, but God bless you. People ask me, like, I had a loan officer ask me, like, hey man, you work with many divorce attorneys and stuff like that, when people are going through divorces. And I really believe in the law of attraction. If I hang around realtors, eventually I'll become a realtor's client. Okay. Eventually I'll become some realtor's client. If I hang around a bunch of divorce attorneys, eventually I'm going to become your client. Okay. So I just don't do it. So, nevertheless, I think, you have to figure out who the client is and figure out how to focus on that individual and take the eyes off yourself. Many people suffer as loan officers because they can't take their eyes off of themselves and focus on the other person.
So I have one quick story, and then I have a follow up to this question right here.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I was a grown man. I returned from I came home from the Army. I was transitioning from the Army into my professional life. And
Okay.
I came home and I was living with my mother before my next professional step. And so I was watching Harry Potter as a grown man. I was watching Harry Potter, and our mother heard Harry Potter talking like a snake, and she was like, "Don't you bring them spirits into my house." Okay. She said, don't. So, hey, you don't want to be attracting them Slytherin spirits. Okay. You don't want to do that.
Oh goodness, that's hilarious, man.
So,
That's
so my follow-up question to that is just give me
yeah.
one or two ways that you're adding value to the realtor who you've established as your client. Give me one or two of those things.
So, I mean, when you start talking about, brokerages, let's start talking about real estate brokerages because, as I build my business, I try to think about everything strategically. It's just the way I am. I'm military, born and bred. Like, what's the strategic objective here? Okay. If I'm having a conversation with a real estate broker, I want to figure out how to help them grow that brokerage. Well, how do I help them grow the brokerage? Well, the brokerage grows by the broker, if they are still producing, doing more transactions, or by the people who are at their brokerage doing more transactions. So I want to figure out how to help them. How do I help educate them? I'll tell you this, realtors really know nothing about loans in general. Okay. They know nothing about lending. As many lenders know very little about real estate. Okay. Everybody stays in their lane and does their thing. But if you can add value by those new realtors that are coming on, they have no idea what lending is like for the most part. So you want to teach classes, figure out how to educate them, figure out how to lift the burden from the broker and say, hey, how do I get in here and help you educate? How do I get in here and help you continue to build your business? How do I get in here and continue to help you, build your brand? These are things that should be conversations that you should be operating in, or things you should be thinking about as you try to figure out how to help build value, because you want to be a problem solver. I had a pastor, Church of Jacksonville, Michael T. Smith, amazing pastor. When he was pastoring, he said something that was phenomenal, and it stuck with me probably 20 years since I've been in that church. He said, if you solve big problems, you'll make big money. But if you solve little problems, you'll make little money. You want to find big problems and solve them for other people. If you can do that, you're going to make big money.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome, and a great way to provide value in becoming the subject matter expert for a brokerage. First of all, for a realtor, and then for a brokerage that realtor is a part of. So, man, that's awesome. So I want to move on to my next question, and that's going to be, what's one daily habit or system that you use in order to keep your pipeline full? We were talking just earlier today about the yo-yo effect, and so many loan originators, you have that amazing month where you close more than you've ever closed before, followed by a drought because you work so hard getting those loans to close. So how do you keep a steady pipeline full throughout the year?
If I have 2 phone calls that I need to return, and one of them is a new prospect, and one of them is somebody already under contract, or a realtor I already have a relationship with, I'm calling the new person every single time. Because the new person, my job is to bring in new business. And some loan officers are, some people work at a call center, your retail loan officer. In my business, I am responsible for my income and putting food on my table. And I have 5 other people that I'm responsible for ensuring they can put food on their table also. If somebody's already in escrow, I mean, our system and processes are dialed in where they're moving along the line to closing. But if I have to make a decision on, I have 7 missed calls and I got to figure out, okay, who am I calling back first? The answer is I'm calling the new prospect, because that's bringing business in. I'll tell you this, and this might be might be jumping ahead here. I think one of the biggest mistakes or misbeliefs that loan officers have is that they close loans. You do not close loans. You should have a processor that closes loans. You might have a loan officer assistant that closes loans. You might show up at closing. But your job was to generate the business and put it in pipeline. Sell the loan, lock the loan, move on. And the processor is going to close that loan. If you don't have a processor that closes loans, please fire them immediately and move on to something else. They are holding you back. So the processor closes loans. I don't necessarily close loans. I am a loan originator. I originate loans. I figure out how to structure loans in most cases. That's what I do. So I think the thing that I'm constantly thinking about is, where is the next loan coming from? I want to lock a loan every single day. Okay. Now, great. If I lock two, that doesn't mean I don't have to lock a loan tomorrow. That means that I need to, every morning I'm thinking, where am I going to originate? Where am I going to lock the next loan? I'm looking at my past client database. Who needs to refinance? I'm looking at my prospects. Who's pre-approved and looking that I haven't engaged with in a while. I need to lock a loan every single day. So the thing that I am fixated on every single day is locking at least one loan.
Man, that's awesome, because you're in your answer there. You certainly approach some things differently than I would have thought. Even though I talk to you, man, we talk every other day or so. I still, to hear you answer that question, maybe it's a myth or a misconception that I believed myself. So, and that was actually my next question. And you said, yeah, we're jumping ahead a little bit on that one. But the myth or the misconception that a loan originator believes that is holding them back from doing more, just to summarize, is that they close loans. Even, that's even a part of our vernacular. I would say, hey, I close loans. Or we say, hey, how many loans did you close? Because that's a way that we measure success in this industry. But what you're saying to me, our official title is a loan originator. That's the beginning of the process. The origination is the beginning. So, man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And I'll tell you this. I mean, I have 5 ladies that are part of my team, direct team. When I say my team, I mean operations directly supporting me. I will tell you this. They are very quick to tell me, Major, stay in your lane. Now, I write the freaking checks. Okay. I control their salary, but they will tell me, Major, stay in your lane. Go get another loan. Okay. That's Major. Why are you responding to that email? That's not your email to respond to. I got that taken care of. Go do something. Why? Because the team understands that my job is to originate loans. They don't originate loans. They understand that. So if I start creeping outside of originating, let me tell you something. We used to be in network marketing. You and I used to be in network marketing. Okay.
Correct.
The company, totally irrelevant for network marketing. This was many, many moons ago. I think over 20 years ago. However, there are people who think that they would be doing something, or they're working in their business, and they would be like, oh, I need to label all of my CDs. Yeah, I need to organize my CDs alphabetically. I need to stack them up correctly and all this stuff. Our training and education tapes and everything. That's busy work. I find it interesting how many people will do what is convenient rather than doing what is necessary. And they will fool themselves into thinking that they're being productive. Even if I'm working in a file, you didn't have to work in that file. Let your loan officer assistant work in the file. You know why you wanted to work in that file? Because you wanted to fool yourself that you were being productive, and you knew you had call reluctance and didn't want to call the next client or didn't want to call the next lead. So what you did was you went and worked on a file and said, I'm busy. I didn't have time to call that client. You are lying. You are scared. So you wanted to do what was convenient rather than doing what was absolutely necessary to grow and build your business.
Hey man, a hit dog a holler. And
That's what they say. That's what they say in Salter, South
and
Carolina.
I'm over here hollering, man. I feel hit, you know, because there are so many times that I personally want to say, well, let me check in with this realtor who I've had a relationship with for the past year.
Exactly.
When I just met 5 new realtors, I'm actively, as you are as well, but I'm actively adding realtors to my list every single weekend.
Right.
Okay. And
Absolutely.
there are times when I would rather, just being honest, call or check in on a realtor who I already have a relationship with than to call the 5 or 6 realtors that I just met over the weekend.
And let me tell you why you do that. Okay. So one of my top referral partner is a lady named Linda Watt. Okay. Linda, she's my personal realtor.
Mine
Linda,
as well.
Linda, we love you. I hope you're doing well. She's traveling overseas right now. All right. So she's my top referral partner. Okay. Now, I was walking down the street and a couple of months ago, and Frank, Linda's husband, shout out to Frank. Frank's a good guy. Man, he's amazing. Frank, coolest guy. He's really laid back. Love him. Amazing. Amazing. So Frank got sick. Okay. Frank got sick and I'm walking the dog. Okay. Hadn't heard from Linda in about 2 or 3 days. And we usually talk like every other day. We got a client going here, client catching up. Hey, we need to do this, need to do this event. So Frank got sick and I'm thinking like, oh crap. And God forbid, Frank's fine. Okay. Prayed over Frank. Frank's fine. But God forbid something happens to Frank. If something happens to Frank, Linda has 4 girls she's got to take care of alone. I don't know how that's going to affect her business. I know it will affect her business. I don't know how it affects her business. And so many lenders will say, well, I'm good because I have all of these referral partners. And I'm like, well, you need to keep building, because if something goes wrong with those referral partners and that relationship, I can totally mess up a transaction. And Linda says, I can't believe Major did that. I'm never working with Major again. That's totally possible. But I still got a family to feed. I still got a business to run. In 2021, I think it was, I did probably 45 transactions with a particular realtor in Hawaii. Okay. 45 transactions. I have not done a transaction with that realtor in the past 2 years. It was just that the demographic and the structure for her business and her prime client got driven out by higher interest rates. And she mostly dedicates a lot of her time right now, although she's still a licensed realtor, she dedicates most of her time right now to running a daycare center, which is her heart's desire, her passion. So your realtor partners, there's no guarantee that they're going to be doing real estate at this level for a long time. So you really have to consistently be adding, consistently be building new relationships, although those might not be your primary relationships. But you need to have relationships with people where you can really enhance your business and continue to grow. Because if you rest all on one person, then you're going to have a problem if something happens to that one referral source, whether it's a divorce attorney or accountant or whatever, insert, referral source here, or if it's lead generation. If that lead source goes away, what exactly, and this conversation applies to realtors also. If that lead source goes away, what is your secondary lead source? What are your other options if something happens to that primary lead source?
And in talking that, you're walking right into my next question, because you talked about realtors who constantly refer you business, or the attorneys who constantly refer you business, or financial planners, or insurance people, whoever might refer you business. How do you build long-term loyalty across these relationships, especially realtors?
I think you have to be fanatical about being consistent. My realtor partners know exactly what my process is. Okay. So they know, like, they're not going to call me a week after we've been in escrow and say, "Hey, man, did you order the appraisal? What are you talking about? It's done day one, day two. Let's move on." They know my process. Now, if you're consistent, it's the same reason people go to McDonald's, Burger King. It's a consistent product. I know the product. Okay. I know exactly what the product is. I'm going to get every single time. If there happens to be an outlier, like, wait a minute, hey, you didn't do this, you forgot to do this. If it happens to be an outlier, then you're more forgiving because you're like, oh, I know the consistent product that I get when I go there. So I think people in a world of uncertainty, your referral partners are dealing with a lot of things. It is incredibly hard to be a realtor. Okay? It is the things that come up in transactions. Like, we have never seen this before. I was in a transaction a couple of weeks ago with a realtor down in Houston, Texas. And, she said, I've been doing this for 12 years. I've never, ever seen this before. I'm like, hey, we can add this one to our hat. We made it through this one. But, there are things that come up all the time. You need a source of consistency, and the first time you're working with a realtor, you have to, have the right conversations. And I say realtors because that's my top referral source. That is a source of my business. Okay. Realtor referrals. I help realtors grow their business. Okay. I invest in helping realtors go from here to there, help them close, move on, make more money. That's my focus. Okay. In the growth of my business. But I'll say this, if you are consistent about what you're delivering, then you won't have to worry about a lot of things that other loan officers worry about. Oh, how quickly do we do pre-approvals? If you haven't heard from me on a pre-approval, it's probably that your buyer has not given me something. What's your time frame for getting back to people on pre-approval? Those things are important. So I think it's the consistency that people keep coming back to when they work with me and the team.
Wow. Well, man, I mean, there's, of course, the devil is in the details, and there's more that loan originators, that realtors are going to want to know about becoming a top producer. But I think we have captured an overview, 30,000 foot view of what it takes. Just an outline. Yes, there's some things, because in all of those questions and topics, you could dive deeper for more than an hour.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think what we have here is just a framework of questions that people who are just starting, because we want to know how to get this thing up and running quickly. One way to avoid frustration in this industry is to make money quickly.
Yeah.
And you've certainly done that. And so if you can get to that point in 36 months where you are making money quickly, then you're going to avoid the frustrations. You're going to build the team. You're going to establish systems and processes. You're going to do the things that it takes to be successful long term in this business.
I'll tell you this. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'll tell you this. When you start talking, I was talking to a guy who's going to be a realtor. I was at a title company for a signing today. He's going to be a realtor, and he was studying for his real estate exam. And he said, "Hey, can you tell me 3 or 4 brokerages that you work with that are good brokerages?" I said, "I could tell you 20." But the reality is the brokerage that you start off at is likely not going to be the brokerage that you end up at. So, when I got started in lending, I was at a retail shop, very, good company, good people. I enjoyed it. They helped me transition from military life to, civilian life and getting into loans and everything. But the reality is, when you're talking about starting off in this business, you're going to go someplace where you can learn. You need to make sure you're under someone who is a mentor and can actually help you figure out things. Somebody who's actually done loans. Okay. And people get on, this is a quiz for you, brother. If I have been in mortgages for 5 years and I do 200 loans a year, but you have somebody who has been in loans for 20 years and they do 20 loans a year. Who is most experienced?
The person doing 200 loans a year.
The person who does
because and to add to that, because I'll have another analogy for you, because it's basketball finals times.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's the person who has taken more game-winning shots.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what it is.
Who are you going to trust to take the game win? The person who's taking the game-winning shot with the pressure on and understanding, okay, this is how you operate under pressure. You don't go into your cave and not answer phone calls and stuff when a transaction is going bad. You have to be the voice of reason. Hey, this is where we are. This is what's going on. But I go back to my other point. You start off somewhere. You might get started in loans because of a friend inviting you to, start at a company and whatever. And that's fine. But you shouldn't have, in this business, you kind of find yourself, how you want to build your business, how you want to have your brand. So the Major Money Matters brand it's my brand. I own it. It is mine. So when we start talking about, branding yourself, making your company your own, making your business your own, I really have concerns when I hear people say things like, they're rah-rah, whatever their company name is. I'm like, that passes away. I mean, I've never had loyalty to a company. I don't have loyalty to the company I'm at right now. I mean, I am loyal as long as you do what you say you're going to do, and I do what I say I'm going to do. If your value proposition runs out, I will change companies. It's not a big deal. It's like, but you have to own your own brand and own your own book of business. That is so important in the loan business.
Wow. Well, I would say excellent parting words. I don't have anything. First of all, I don't have the fruit on the tree to add anything to that. So it's a great parting word. And don't get me wrong, as a person in this business for the past 2 years, it's been a wild ride and a learning experience. And I've enjoyed most minutes of it. Some people say I've loved every minute of it. Hold on, wait a minute. Wait. Okay.
You don't enjoy every minute of anything, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
This is sometimes not enjoyable.
The most enjoyable thing in the world, you don't enjoy every minute of
it. Yes,
okay?
That's true. That is true. That is true. Even if you're eating a brownie, you might like the edges, but not the middle. I mean, give me the edges, bro. Give me
the crispy edges.
Give me the crispy edges.
So
I'll tell you. Okay, and I'll part with this. We got to wrap with this. Okay, so I'll part with this, and and the issue that I think, whether you're a realtor, whether you are building a business, whether you are a loan originator, the challenge that you have is you don't understand really who you are. If you understand who you are, then you would do things a lot more differently. If you look at the book of Exodus, the book of Exodus is about God bringing the children of Egypt out of a situation they were in. But the book of Exodus, if you read the book, if you read the Bible, not just looking at the events, but looking at the people, you have a different perspective. Moses sits there and asks the question multiple times in the book of Exodus, who am I? Who am I to do this? You're telling God, you're telling me to do, who am I? Now, Moses was dealing with a bunch of stuff, okay, in his background. But the reality is he kept asking this question, who am I? And everything that God did through Moses was to show him who he was. And the reality is Moses, no matter what, still had a struggle with self-image. And it is a struggle that many people have right now. Why have you not done the thing that you had the God-given idea to do? I will tell you, I am fanatical about execution. If I have an idea to do something, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to do it Sometimes, sometimes I make the right decisions. Sometimes I got to make my decisions right. But I have to go execute because I don't know if this is the next big thing that God gave me an idea for, and I got to go run do it. So if you understand who you are, then you start to understand how business actually works. God gives you an idea, but God doesn't execute the idea for you. You have to do the work. Everything I have, it's been a great ride in mortgages, but everything has been because I had the idea and I executed on the idea. I picked up the phone. I made the planning call. I called the client when the client popped into my head. I didn't say, I feel like I need to call that person. No, God put that person on your mind for a reason. Go call them. Call the realtor. Send the email. What are you waiting for? You are a creation of God. And if you learn to do that, if you learn that, then the world is simply at your fingertips. This business is not hard, but really, you got to work on getting over yourself and getting over what people think about you. Tell you what, I had this situation. I had this situation.
I have one. Keep going. Keep going. I have.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm coming back to it.
I'm just going to say, quit worrying about what people think about you because they're not thinking about you.
They're not.
All right. Keep on going. Keep going.
What someone else thinks about me is none of my business. I do not care. You'll have situations where you're thinking like, oh, they're thinking about this because this happened 2 months ago. People got spouses, kids, all kind of crap bills to pay. And you think they're worrying about you. They're worrying about the fact that you said something crazy when you were on a phone call with them. No, they don't remember that. They don't remember that at all. And you're sitting here thinking about, if I say the wrong thing, they're going to remember it forever. No, they don't. They've already forgotten. I can't remember what I did yesterday. I certainly don't remember who I talked to yesterday. It's over. People are not thinking about you. You are not that important. You're not.
Wow. I mean, which is so crazy, because, and look, you've gone on another, but we're going to keep going and then we'll wrap this up. But what's amazing is that we don't remember ourselves. Okay. If we're trying our best to think about someone who had a minor infraction against us, we can't even think about these things, but about our own self, we will remember when we said the wrong thing when we were in the 10th grade. When you were a dumb private in the military and you did something stupid, you will remember that about yourself, but you won't remember what other people did. It's the same way for everybody walking out this life. They don't remember you. If you walked into that open house one time and you shook their hand and you told them some good things that might have piqued their interest, when you call them in 48 hours, they'll say, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think I did. I think I do remember you.
Yeah,
you did say that.
Yeah, I remember you. They wouldn't know, like, make a fool of yourself because nobody remembers it anyway. If you just look at the people who are constantly willing to make a fool of themselves or enter into uncomfortable situations, they are some of the most successful people in this life. Public speakers who are willing to get up time and time again and expose themselves by the words that come out of their mouth are some of the most successful people because they're willing to do it over and over again until it feels natural.
Yeah, comfortable being uncomfortable, man. That's the name of this game. You got to be very, very comfortable being extremely uncomfortable. And if you don't know something, go figure it out. And this is very much this loan business. Nobody can tell you how to do every loan. Nobody can tell you how to do it. You have to do loans until you say, oh no, I've seen that before. We can't do that. Oh no, I've seen that problem before. Oh, somebody else told me that, and this is the situation that happened. Even if I tell you what you're going to experience, you have to experience it for yourself. You have to see it for yourself because you don't know it until you actually experience like, oh crap, that's why I shouldn't have done that. That's why. But
Yeah,
this is,
I think there's a tagline in here somewhere for originators that says you don't know loans until you do loans.
and you can read guidelines all you want, but the application of those guidelines is a different world. But anyway, we can go on. We can go on for probably like 2 hours, bruh, just talking about this stuff. But I mean, I think it's important to do this because people will call me up like, "Hey, man, I want to pick your brain." Okay, first of all, did you go to my YouTube channel? Okay, did you watch my Instagram? Okay, did you do this? If you listen to that, you will get my brain, and you will figure out. Some people will figure out I don't really like your brain, and guess what? That's okay. Okay. You will figure it out. But, the reality is I want people to really understand like what I do. And brother, I was on a phone call with somebody. He lives in Seattle. If he watches this, he's going to know I'm talking about. He called me up and he's a fellow Army guy. He's like, "Hey man, you're doing VA loans. You're doing this class thing. I want to do that. Can you tell me what you're doing?" Okay, great. I'll tell you. And we spent 30 minutes on the phone. And I told him everything like, "Hey, you do this, you do this, you do this." At the end of 30 minutes, he goes, "I mean, is that it? I mean, I thought you were doing something that's like different." No, I'm not doing anything that is different. I'm just doing it consistently. You are trying to do it and just do it once. I'm doing it consistently. And he's like, "Well, that's kind of, I think he walked away disappointed by the conversation because he thought he was going to get some magic secret. And there is no secret. You just got to get up and do it every single day."
Wow. Well, go ahead and do your sign off.
Hey, thanks for joining us. See you next time on the next episode of Major Money Matters.